This is Roy Yuri bringing you Philimena.com. Why Philimena? This is a question I get all the time, and there's a simple answer. My middle name is Philimena, kids. What prompted me to start this blog was a decision I made earlier this year that I'm going to be putting into action in a month. I have decided I'm moving back to my native land of Liberia in West Africa. And every time I tell someone this, I get one of two reactions. Wow, that's amazing, or what the hell are you thinking? So I have been encouraged, people are interested, they want to know what it is to be in Africa, what it is to be in Liberia, and I want to share that journey with everyone. How did I get to America? It's a little bit of an interesting story. I was born here in 1986 in Brooklyn, New York at Coney Island Hospital. Shortly after my birth, me and my mother traveled back to Liberia to be with my father and the rest of my family. I lived there till 1990, and a civil war broke out in Liberia, which made me and my mother move back to the States. At the time, we thought it was a temporary situation. Our civil war ended up lasting for almost a decade, so we found residence here in America. My experience as a first-generation American was interesting, to say the least. You know, you are in the culture, you are trying to assimilate to American culture. You go to school, you're around kids that look like you, that have similarities to you, but you go home and it's a whole different world. You are literally back in Africa, you're in Liberia. I had my mother, my grandmother who lived with me, so I had a very heavy African influence, and I didn't really even know the difference until I got older and got around other African Americans that I started to notice the differences. You know, they learned about Black history while I learned about Liberian history, and those are things that you just don't realize as a child, but it becomes more and more apparent as you get older. Are there similarities between Detroit and Liberia? This is a really awesome question because I always felt like I could make it in Detroit, I can make it in Liberia. One thing that we as Detroiters are faced with is we have been the underdog of this country for so long, and Liberia is definitely the underdog of West Africa. We endured a very long civil war. Recently we went through the Ebola crisis, and we are still rebounding, but there's so much resilience, just like there's a lot of resilience here in Detroit. And one of the things is it's not covered in the media, and this is part of the reason that I'm doing this blog. You see a lot of people in Detroit chronicling the journey of this renaissance that's happening in the city. And I feel like it's the same thing that needs to happen in Liberia, and that's why I'm starting this up. What will I miss the most about Detroit? I would have to say the people. You will never find a type of people like you find in Detroit. We are hustlers, we are good, kind-hearted spirits, we work hard, and we know what it is to face adversity. I think of these people every day. I see the change that's happening around me, and it's awesome. And I don't think I will ever see a resilience like I do in the people of Detroit. Question I get a lot is why now? Why move back now after being here for so long? I guess I started to realize how cool it is to know where you really come from. You know, with things like Ancestry.com, people are paying money to trace their lineage, and I have a book at home in Liberia that talks about where my family came from. We have a city that we've been established in, houses that we've had for years, land that we own, and that is just such a rare occurrence here in the US. People don't pass things down. There's no legacy left, and I have an entire legacy and a family situated in Liberia, and I just think that is so cool. Liberia versus America. That's an easy question. Of course it will be. You're going from the first world to the third world. Your first world conveniences are gone. I'll miss Starbucks. I'll miss Whole Foods. I'll miss Amazon. But these are all sacrifices that need to be made to adapt to that lifestyle. And hopefully with my friends, family, and my experience of being in the country, it'll be an easier transition than normal. What is my favorite thing about Liberia? This is a weird answer, but the food. We have some of the best food I've ever had in my life in Liberia. We also have the best jollof rice in West Africa. Recently there was a competition in New York and Liberia won. But anyway, we have the freshest seafood. Most of my activities in Liberia revolve around food. So I'm looking forward to going back and enjoying all of that. Not my waistline, but we'll just have to work those things out. My goal for this blog is to share a world, an unknown world with my followers, hopefully to erase misconceptions about Liberia, about Africa, foreign nations in general. A lot of people have this National Geographic, or what the news tells you, perception of a lot of nations, and it's a wrong perception. So I'm hoping to erase all those stereotypes, all those misconceptions, and encourage people to come and visit. And my door is always open to my followers. Thank you guys for joining me for this first episode. I hope you learned a little bit more about my story, and I hope you follow me for the next episode where I'll be chronicling my journey from Detroit to Liberia. Make sure you visit the website philimena.com.